you join me in the kitchen for what is probably going to be quite a raw clip. Just some life thoughts, really. So I gave myself nothing to do today, purposefully. I don't have to go into work till later, so I just didn't schedule anything with my day. I thought I'm going to have a day to myself. I'm going to have a day to just think and just to relax for a bit, because I haven't done that in a while. So I was taking a walk, and I was thinking about, is this year the best year of my life? Like, is each year getting progressively better than the year before it? Because that's what you want, really, ideally. And this year's been pretty good. Like, I've done a fair few bits of like traveling, holidays. Even though I've had to work quite a lot to afford those, and I don't particularly love my job, it's still been pretty good. So I was thinking, okay, comparatively, how was last year? And 2021 was okay. I did some good stuff, but when I'm thinking about it, there's not a whole bunch that stands out, either like stuff that I did or like the way that I was. Because I think when you're thinking about like, has it been a good year, you're thinking as well as like, how good have I been? Like, how much am I progressing as a person? At least that's the way I think about it. So I was like, okay, well, if 2021 was, how was 2020? And obviously that was like an intense year for a lot of reasons. But for me, there was a lot of good that came out of that crazy year. And I often feel some guilt about that, but that's a topic for a different video. 2020, I was sort of forced to go on this whole like self-improvement kick, and I got my shit together. So the summer of 2020, post first lockdown, pre-winter lockdown in the UK, was pretty sick. I was feeling really good about myself, and I had time to work on myself and just enjoy the summer. I was also surrounding myself with cool people, and when we could socialise. And I met my girlfriend at the end of that summer, and that was really good. So it was like 2020 actually, for its shit start and its shit end, the summer was quite memorable for me. So I was like, okay, well, what changed between 2020 and 2021? And I think in 2021, I was kind of just trying to ride off the high of the self-improvement stuff that I had learnt in 2020, instead of like furthering that betterment of myself through more self-improvement and more progress. And that sort of meant that by the end of 2021, I was just a bit stale, to be honest, which is what sparked the change this year with the travel, I guess, trying to make my life better. But I also need to be trying to make myself better. And I'm going to title this video something about impermanence, or nothing's permanent. And you might think, well, what does this have to do with that? And you'll see where I'm going in a minute. This is just the train of thought that I was going down. So I was thinking, like, you need to constantly be pushing forwards, because if you're not pushing forwards, you're effectively going backwards, because you're just growing more stale, and that isn't progressive or good for your life. It certainly isn't for my life. I feel like you want to be walking the line between order and chaos pretty well in order to progress, right? You don't want to get too comfortable, because when you get too comfortable and then something gets sprung on you, that's when shit goes a bit west. Whereas if you're constantly progressing and then you meet a challenge, it's just another thing for you to progress through. So that's why 2021, I sort of didn't really further myself at all. And I'm thinking this year, like, shit, like, this is what I've just realised today, like, you need to be on your toes constantly, because I spent a whole year sort of trying to ride off the high of my self-improvement from the year before, and that's not actual progression anymore, because at some point the original progression just becomes your life. Like, you progress to a point, and then if you stay there, then that's only going to get stale as time goes on, because you've stayed there. You know what I mean? Like, the feelings that I felt in 2020 are not permanent. They felt good not because of the feelings that they actually were. They felt good because I was experiencing new feelings and pushing myself into new realms that I hadn't been in before, if that makes sense. And this is what links into the impermanence of everything, because those 2021 I'm a better person now feels didn't last, and I didn't even notice that until they'd completely depleted. And it's like, nothing like that ever lasts, which is why you need to keep pushing yourself forwards. You need to keep keeping yourself fresh. Like, I'm on this whole holiday hype at the minute, and the reason that I like traveling is because it makes you feel fresh. It puts you in a new place that you've never been before. But I am well aware that if I just keep doing this for years and years and years, at some point it's not going to be fresh anymore. And that's quite sad, but also that's just a fact, because nothing lasts forever. You know, it's like, there's a song that I love at the minute, right? It was in the Berlin vlog, called Natal. It's by Ajeka. And it makes me vibey and happy every time I hear it. But the more I listen to it, that's only gonna fade. And then you need to just move on to the next thing. And the same is true with life. And it's hard. It's so hard to talk about this shit without it sounding like it's just buzzwords, or to do it without sounding hippie-ish. But it's fucking true, man. And I'm hoping that I'm articulating what I'm trying to say well enough for you to understand. This is partly why I've started doing YouTube, because it forces me to have to vocalize my internal thoughts. But what I'm trying to say is, you need to constantly be progressing and constantly be moving on to enjoy life. Or at least I do. Like, I don't know if that's the same for everyone, but I feel like for a lot of people it will be. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand. And it's like, you know, people feel stagnant. They start to hate the job, or they think the relationship's the problem or something. It's like, no, you're the problem. You know what I mean? Like, you're not progressing yourself as a person. Like, your goal in life should not just be to have a better year every year. It should be to be a better person every year. And those two things somewhat go hand in hand. But I think being the best you can be is something you should strive for all the time, which means you have to be constantly on your toes. You have to be constantly self-evaluating. You have to be constantly thinking, okay, like, what can I learn? And that doesn't have to be some like deep soul searchy thing. It could be as simple as like, okay, well, what skill can I learn now? You know, like, what hobby can I do to keep things fresh? But I think going forward, I mean, we're 5 months into 2022 now. Going forward for the rest of the year, I need to be looking at like, okay, where am I not progressing as a person? Like, what are the issues that I still have? What are the quote unquote flaws that I may still have, at least in my own eyes? And how can I be working on them? Because the reason that I needed to do the whole self-improvement kick in 2020 was because for like the 2 years before that, I'd neglected the idea that you should be consistently learning. You leave college, you leave university, whatever, that's not the end of learning. That's just the fucking start, mate. And I used to have that mindset when I just left college, or at least when I was in college. But then I didn't go to university. And instead I was like, okay, well, I'll just learn about life by doing it. And again, I wasn't on my toes. So that freshness wore off and I became a stale ass motherfucker. And if I'm not careful, that's where I'm going to end up again. So I'm going to avoid that. And so should you.